Hey
Okay.
everybody, good morning. I just know it's actually news to me that this was about business math, so I'll do my best to steer it in that direction. I was more talking, I was going to
Oh,
talk about like investing and
actually,
um,
that's been a major topic of our conversation. So it's called business math, but essentially in this class, we go over anything useful to young adults. So essentially, it starts off with the discussion about, how to use math in business. And then we kind of pivot into daily life, how to invest in the stock market, how to pick a good, or we talked a little bit about 401ks, how you use your employer's matching accounts, and we talked a little bit about what else did we cover recently? We investing in stock market, budgeting, 50-30-20 rule. So we do a lot of like overview, but I figured this is a good opportunity for us to talk with somebody. If you wanted to introduce yourself a little bit and
yeah, hey everybody. So my name is Paul. I know it says I'm a professional. I don't know how much of a professional I am. I guess my claim to fame or the reason I'm here is that I was able to accumulate $1 million in investments by the time I was 36 on just like a normal salary. I was making between from 0 to 1 million. I made about $60,000 a year average. And you're like, how did you make $1 million in 11 years off, a 60,000 salary? Well, I saved half of it. And but you're like, oh, half of 60, that's 30 times 11, that's 330,000. How'd that turn into 1 million? Compound interest. Put it into the stock market, and most of it was starting early. I started investing. Well, I got out of debt. All right, let me start at the beginning, I guess. So I grew up really poor, right? So I never knew how money worked. I didn't know about investing. Forget about any of that stuff. It was just hand to mouth survival, right? Um, and a lot of things happened in my life that kind of directed my the way I think about money. Really, I've always been frugal, like out of necessity, and so that really helped me. Because most people, when you think about investments, you need capital, right? You need money to invest. It doesn't just come out of nowhere. And for most people, that money will come from, there's no magic source. There's no inheritance. There's no like money. You're gonna make magic internet money through influencing, which I don't recommend, by the way. I've talked with some teens, like 12-year-olds, and I asked them what they want to do in life, and they say, YouTube, which is a terrible plan because the thing is so saturated. So many people doing that. So what you got to do if you want to make money in a special way, you have to do something special. You have to offer people something that no one else offers. You know. Um, so yeah, I joined the Air Force at 21 with like $25,000 of debt. And I had a new car and I had about $5,000 on a credit card. And finally, in the Air Force, I finally had a job that paid me more than I needed for my basic survival. And so I used that opportunity to save as much as I possibly could. When my friends would go out, I would abstain a little bit. I wouldn't spend as much. Everything would go towards the debt. So it took me 4 years to pay off that debt. And so at 25, I was at zero. And at that point, I started putting all that money that I was putting towards debt, I started putting towards my investments. And so I was 25 I've been saving a little bit because I think it's important to invest as well as pay down debt. But if I had to do it all over again, I might just more aggressively hit the debt. So I like to say that investing while you're in debt is like running with a parachute. Yeah, you'll make some movement, but it's best if you just if you stop, you take the parachute off, and then you can start running, along with your friends. So basically, pay the debt off first before you start investing in general. Um, I started with just $90 a month because most of my money was going to debt. So I was putting $90 a month into my thrift savings plan, which is a military or government 401k. And everything I did was anytime I thought, you know, I want to buy something or I want to do this, I always thought to myself, is this money better spent? Like, am I getting value out of this spending, you know? Um, and if I didn't, you know, I wouldn't spend it, because I would always say, okay, this money could be used to invest, to buy me my freedom. Around 2010 is when I got out of debt, and about 2011 is when I discovered FIRE. Have you guys been taught about FIRE? Financial independence, retire early. Okay, so if you go to my website, dollarbills.com, I am sure your teacher shared it with you, the link. But I have a tab of resources, and there's some books you can read. I highly recommend you read The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. I Will Teach You to Be a Millionaire is another good book. Quit Like a Millionaire. These are all very good books. And they all talk about, one, how to invest, but two, how important it is to get started early. Because you guys don't even realize it, but most people don't start investing, don't wake up until they're like 30 or 40 and say, oh crap, you know, I got to retire in 25 years and 35 years. What, you know, I got to start saving now. The people that get started in their 20s are the ones who can retire in their 30s, 40s. And some of you may be even retire in your 20s, who knows? You get started now, you know, you may be not retire necessarily, but work optional. You have the funds to be able to not work if you choose so, you know, and that is kind of a goal for a lot of people. They don't know how to express it, but that is the goal. Like they don't want to work, right? They want to be able to have their investments cover their expenses, right? Anyway, so yeah, I 25, I got out of debt. I continued saving, and 4 years later, I had $150,000 saved up, because I was just saving half my income very aggressively and investing in it. All right, so let me get into those questions real quick that you guys were you guys sent, right? So the first one, how do you create a personal budget, and what key categories do you include? Okay, so this is going to be a strange statement, but I don't budget. I prioritize. So when you guys start working, when you have expenses, most people, if I were to ask most people, like, what are your monthly expenses? The first thing they would usually say is the rent, right? So that the rent is what they pay. For me, when I think to myself, what are my budget items? The first thing is, of course, you know, I always have to make sure the rent is paid, the bills are paid, all of this and that is paid. But the first line item at the same level of the rent is investments, right? So I put investments at the same priority, or investments and savings, right? Saving part of my income. I put that at the same priority as paying rent. Is the first thing that comes out. And the reason I'm able to not budget is because I prioritize. The money that I feel is important comes out first. So rent is important, so it will come out first. Investing is important, that money comes out first. Everything else I spend how I see fit. And that works for me. You know, it won't work for everyone. Some people actually need a budget. And a budget is not something negative. It's just a plan for your money. It's not restriction. You guys know what I mean? It's like when people think budget, they're like, oh, it's restriction. But no, it's not. It's just a plan for your money. We all have a limited income, you know, and when you guys have jobs and stuff, there isn't a person in the world that does not have unlimited money. Even billionaires, if they're not careful, they'll blow it all, right? So you have to be very careful with your money. You have to be intentional with your money. You have to, you know, you get $1,000 paycheck. You're like, okay, 20% of this, or 10% or 50%. I mean, if you guys can do 50, you can retire even earlier, you know, should go to investments. Or if you're in debt, towards debt first, right? Or if you don't have an emergency fund, towards savings, right? And some categories you would look at, the three biggest categories for Americans, who can guess what they are for the budgeting in Americans? Come on, throw out something. What's the three biggest categories for money that people spend?
Needs, wants, and saving.
Say again?
Needs, wants, and saving.
No, it's sorry.
What do you spend most of your money on?
Yeah, what do you spend most of your money on, or what do most people spend on?
Food, rent, bills.
Food. It's the three biggest are housing, food and transportation, or I think transportation and food. So those are the three biggest spendings that most people have. So if you're trying to find a way to live more cheaply so you have money to invest, look at those three things. So I do all three of those. So I live in a but in a fairly cheap apartment. You know, I don't have anything more than I need. It's just a 1-bedroom apartment for me and my wife. My car is right about your guys' age. I've had a car since same car since 2007. It's 240,000 miles. And my food, I mean, I'm cautious about spending, but we still like go out to eat at restaurants all the time. So I guess I'm not that frugal in that regard. But that's what you got to do. That's what I did, is I prioritized saving. If that is more important than everything else, if that's more important than spending on a trip, or if your financial independence is more important to you than anything else, then you will save and you will invest. So that's kind of the mindset you have to have. All right, I sent you guys something, a spending tracker. So I told you I don't budget, but I do track my spending. Let me show you what mine looks like.
I'm gonna load the spending tracker that he sent to our Google Classroom, as well as his other sheet. But yeah, right, this is what he sent me, and then we can use that as well.
Can you guys see this okay?
Yes.
So this is these are all, each line is just something I spent. I have thousands and thousands and thousands of these. I've been tracking this since like 2010 or something. But basically it gives me what I spend on different things, per month. So that spending tracker that I sent you guys is something, if you are interested in seeing where your money goes, it's a very simple Excel spreadsheet that you enter your expenses and it'll sum up, how much you spend on each category per month. So I just did an example here. But so you see how those numbers changed? We're here on the right. Sorry. So yeah, basically you enter something. So let's say we have something for today. You spent, I don't know, $14 at, I don't know, McDonald's or whatever. And then food, when I type in food, notice what happens here for food for April. It's going to go up by $14. See that? It changed right there. Anyway, so
is the average for all time?
the average is all time. So when you have more months, it will notice how over here, I spent $50 in March on gas. So that would be, yeah, right here, March. And I spent $30 in April on gas right here, right? So the average of that is 40. So as you enter more data, it's going to become, it's going to fill out. And a second thing I sent you guys is a retirement calculator. So you can calculate if you're on track, what your investments are going to do, how much money you're going to have at a certain age. And that's this right here. So just change what's here in the yellow cells. So let's say you get started investing at 25. You have $100,000 to your name when you get started investing. You're saving from your paycheck about $2,500 a month, and you require about $75,000 to survive, right? And you want to retire at 55. Well, with this money, at the 8% that we can expect the stock market to return and 3% inflation, you'll be able to retire in about 26 years when you're 51 years old. So right in time, right? But let's say we went up a little bit. Let's say, you came out of high school making like big bucks. So you're able to save $10,000 a month. You'll be able to retire in 11 years. Right there, when you're 36 years old. Incidentally, 36 is when I became a millionaire. Yeah. So anyway, play around with this. And if this is something of interest to you, but it'll show you like when you can retire and just change that. All right, cool. So back to those questions. Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry. Was I sharing my screen or no?
Yeah,
You
you were
were,
sharing.
don't worry
Yeah,
about
we,
it.
we saw the retirement. But
Okay, Oh, stop share. There we go. All right, cool. All right, back to the questions. Okay, what's the difference between Roth IRA or between 401ks and IRAs? Okay, first thing, I know many of you want to get rich quick or whatnot, but I'd highly avoid it. I mean, I want to get rich quick too. I did, that's everybody does, but the reason not a lot of people get rich quick is because it's really not that easy. Do you guys understand the relationship between risk and reward?
Yeah.
So to get a high return on investment, a high ROI, you're going to have to take some insane risks, right? What you can expect safely from an investment is about 10% a year. So anytime you get anything greater than that, you're going to get all kinds of people. Once you start making money, once you start looking into investments, you're going to get a whole bunch of charlatans come out of the woodwork trying to steal your money, right? You want to avoid that. You want to avoid anything complicated. Wall Street loves to complicate things so they can get paid to uncomplicate it for you, but it is not that, it's not, you can do it yourself. Like almost anyone can invest on their own, right? And I highly recommend you don't invest in anything until you've maxed out your retirement accounts. That's your 401k, your IRA, or your Roth IRA, right? And I would recommend for most people is a Roth IRA. Do you guys understand the difference between the Roth and the traditional?
I think that's one of the questions they were asking.
Oh, you were okay. I'm sorry. Okay, so a 401k is a retirement plan that some jobs offer. You can only get a 401k through work. Now, the maximum you can contribute to that this year is about $23,000, right? Your IRA stands for individual retirement account, and that is something that anyone that has earned income can open and invest in. Okay, and there are two tax treatments of these accounts. You can either pay the taxes now and then never ever pay anything again, and that's the Roth option of these accounts. So you could have either a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k, or a traditional IRA or a traditional 401k. So the traditional ones, either the IRA, the 401k, they reduce your taxable income. So let's say you contribute $20,000 to your 401k, the traditional 401k, that means your income gets, or $20,000 less of your income gets taxed. Does that make sense? But then for the traditional, you're gonna have to wait until in retirement, you're gonna have to pay taxes on everything. So all of my accounts are Roth accounts. So I have a Roth 401k at work and I have a Roth IRA. And that's because I'm fine. I'm in a low tax bracket. I'm in like the 12% tax bracket. So the government can take my money now. I really don't care. It's not that much, but they're never, ever going to bother me again. So I paid my taxes up front. And that's why I recommend Roth IRAs, because I like knowing that I won't have to pay any more taxes. I like locking it in, right? So did that explain the difference?
Yes.
I hope. Okay. All right, so next question. I know, I'm sorry guys, it's a little unorganized, but yeah, get rich quick schemes. Let me see. Okay, something else. I can say this from my own life. I got started, in my early mid-20s, and there were other people that got started at the same time as me. I took a more passive approach, like a less get rich quick. My motto is get rich slowly but surely, So what I invest in is index funds. Do you guys know what index funds are?
I've heard
No?
of it, but I'm not really familiar.
Okay. So have you heard of the S&P 500? That's okay. They don't know. You guys are
Isn't it the top 500 stocks?
correct. It's the largest 500 companies in America, right? So the strongest and the largest 500 companies in America. And with the S&P 500 is just an index of those companies. It's just a list, so you have Microsoft, you have Tesla, you have Apple, you have all the biggest companies you've heard of on that list. And the index fund is just a fund containing all of those stocks on the index, right? So you can have an index fund containing S&P 500 stocks. You can have an index fund containing medical companies. You can have an index fund containing tech companies. Follow me so far?
Yeah.
Okay. And so by buying that, so most people, when you think stock investing, it's day trading, it's picking stocks, right? You put money into this company, by 5 o'clock it shoots up, you sell and collect your profits, right? That is what most people think. And that's like when you go on Instagram or social media, that's what a lot of people will, influencers will try to push. Like they're selling you their course to try to learn, how to trade. And that's not a very effective way. Like something like high 90% of day traders never make any money. They actually lose. So I want to put that completely out of your head. You're not going to be picking stocks. You're not going to be going into any high risk investments, right? You're just going to be putting your money into an index fund. It's boring, but it's dependable. And 10% a year, 8% a year is not bad, especially when compounded over your lifetimes. So I'm hoping your teacher has shown you like how crazy compounding can get.
Did the penny calculation with the student?
After 30 days?
Yeah, we did that.
5 million? Yeah.
Yeah, we've done compound interest
Okay, good.
well as part of our calculations. And we also did a little bit of like risk analysis. We opened up Investopedia simulator accounts. And then I for one example, we bought all in one stock. And then the other one, we bought a diversified portfolio. And we've been tracking that over the course of the year and seeing basically the one stock tanking and lost like, what was it like? I think we lost like, yeah, like 20% of its value. And then the diversified portfolio has been slowly growing over the course of the year. So it's up like about.
It was up like 120 last time we checked.
Yeah, so about like a 20% gain for that one.
Okay, wow, yeah. Well, you guys, that worked out in your favor. I mean,
Yeah.
It could have been just a bad year and it gone down, and your point would have been like totally gone over there.
Yes, you know, that's the risk analysis one. Yeah.
So index funds, I just want to hammer into your head, index funds, low fee, like you don't need anyone to manage your money. There will be tons of people, Wall Street loves to collect a fee on assets under management. The traditional financial advisor, active money manager, they charge about 1%, 2%, and they can seriously erode your returns over time. So you can do it yourself. Just max out that 401k, max out that IRA, and put it into low-cost index funds. Okay, that's how you invest, or that's my recommendation. And some of you may not be into stocks, right? Personal finance is personal. Everyone has a different affinity to things. I'm into stocks. I like the passive nature. That's just what I do. But some people like real estate, and I'm not saying that's what you shouldn't do that. Some people have an affinity to real estate, and if that is your affinity, if that is what you feel comfortable with, because real estate is like tangible, you can understand it, then go for it. But this is how I do it, and if you're listening to me, I hope you follow that route. Right? But the people who make the most money, how do you think they got rich?
Luck.
Nope, not luck. I mean, yes, everybody actually, sorry, I didn't mean to dismiss it so easily. Luck is a factor, but it is not the main factor.
Money, trust.
No, we're talking, okay, so.
Normal people.
Who are the richest people that you can think of right now?
Kardashians.
Wow.
I can't hear you. Say again.
Kardashians.
The Kardashians. Oh man.
I know. Weird.
Only one of them. I mean, they're like single billionaires at best. They're not rich. They're not people you should be emulating your life after. So come on. Well, who's the richest person in the world?
Elon Musk?
Elon Musk. Okay. Anybody else you can think of?
Bill Gates.
Elon or
Bill Gates. Who else?
Zuckerberg, Bill Gates. Those are like the big three.
Yeah, Zuckerberg, Bill Gates. Jeff Bezos, right? How did all those people make their money?
They own a large percent of companies.
Business. That is how if you want to make a ton of money, that is how you make money. It's very high risk running your own business. Most businesses fail. So clearly, the returns are in there because of the risk. So if you want to make massive bucks, business is the way to go, but you also have a very high chance of failing. I know people that have been trying to get rich quick. The whole time I was trying to get rich slowly by saving half of my income, putting it into index funds, investing in my 401k and my IRA. And how many of them? So I have maybe a half dozen people off the top of my head I can think of that kind of fall into that camp. How many of them do you think are successful?
One maybe.
Not a one. I mean, I've been unlucky. None of those people made it because they were always trying to get rich quick. They were jumping from project to project, from this investment to this Ponzi scheme to this multi-level marketing strategy, and they're still struggling. They're still trying to get rich. Whereas I did it slower, but I'm actually sort of rich, you know. A million isn't what it used to be, but it's still, you know, quite a bit of money. And well, you know, I'm set for retirement. Like, even if I don't save another dime, I'm coasting. You know, I'm going to have multiple millions by retirement, probably tens of millions by the time I reach traditional retirement age.
I just wanted to interject here a moment. And again,
Sure.
as he mentioned before, does he have a six-figure job that he mentioned?
No, he has a 60K job, but
Yeah.
he's invests, is it like
It's-
half of the 60K each year? So
Well,
like
after
30
taxes,
days
I'm
and-
sure, but
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, the 60, I make a little more now, but it's still not six figures. And my income during the accumulation phase, during the time I built to $1 million, was on average 60K. And on average, I saved half of that. So,
which is an extremely attainable salary range, as we've discussed, like, you know.
oh yeah, you'll make more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, just trying to point this out to the students that we don't have to have huge incomes to invest wisely and save and budget, or, you know, budget, but like you said, you have the 50% you essentially just take right off the top and put it away. So that's part of your budgeting system. But, you know, just keeping that in mind, because one of the conversations we've had in class, right, was, oh, I'm not going to make enough money to save, you know, which is not true if you are, you know, if you have that forethought and you have that determination. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted.
No worries. Yeah. Yeah. If you can manage, it's all about priorities. If you can manage to pay the rent, I mean, how many people do you hear that, oh, I got kicked, I got evicted because I forgot to, I just couldn't pay the rent. I forgot to pay the rent. You know, very few people. That is number one. People will always find a way to pay the rent, right? So if they can always find a way to pay the rent, I'm sure you can always find a way to save something. And it doesn't have to be a lot. Please understand, it doesn't have to be $10,000 a month. I started at 90 because that's all I could afford. You can start at 5. You know, that's not the important. How much you do now is not the important part, because you will make money. The important part is that you get into the habit of saving part of every paycheck, even if it's only a small amount, even if it's $1, even if it's $5, $10, $100. It doesn't matter, you know. The important part is that you prioritize saving every time you get a paycheck. Anytime a friend of yours gets money, you set aside a small amount, you know. Like some people set aside 10% to give to charity, to donate, right? And I do that too. I donate 10% of my income. And you're like, where do you get all this money from? I live in Southern California, in LA, right? I make the average salary. I don't make that much. But I'm able to live well. I'm able to, you know, be generous, give to charity. And I'm not saying you should donate. That's really up to you. But I think when you become successful and when you have money, it's important to give back and to spend some of that money making the world a better place in whatever way you see fit. You know, much like personal finance, you know, generosity is also personal. So it can be as simple as like helping a neighbor that's struggling, you know, or you could give to a charity or whatever it is that, you know, I would encourage you to become generous with your money as well. But you always come first. So you never want to help someone else out if you're struggling. You know, you don't have to give. So don't let anyone pressure you into giving. And another thing about pressure, too many people, I'm sure you've show of hands, how many people went on, like, what do you guys use now? Instagram? Is that the main one, or
TikTok also.
TikTok? Oh yeah, TikTok. Okay. But how many of you go on there and you see other people living a life, like a flashy life, and you feel bad about yourself? Show of hands.
Every day.
Yeah. Most of your hands should be up because that's human nature. You know, we see what other people have and we want it. And you didn't even know you wanted it until you saw it, right? But I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. All of those 22-year-olds, you know, with I don't know how many millions of dollars in the bank, making money with, you know, the magic of trading or whatever nonsense they're flashing in front of your eyes. It's all fake. The way they make money is by selling you courses. They don't actually make money doing what they say they make. All those people with Lambos, with the private jets, with the flashy jewelry, you know, all that stuff doesn't matter. It's not real. It's fake. It's all marketing, right? So don't let yourself feel bad because all that does, all the social media does is cause you to spend money. You know, and if you want to be rich, you got to act like you're broke. That's what I do. That's why I still have a car. I can afford a Lambo. You know, I I can afford a lot of stuff. I just choose not to buy it because the money, it's luxury goods are stupid. You know, Gucci, I don't know if you guys know this, but they market to poor people who want to look rich. How many rich people do you see with like flashy Gucci stuff? You know, Louis Vuitton, you don't. It's only the people that want to look rich, you know, and people like rappers and stuff, but they have to project kind of an aura of wealth. So that's okay for them. It's marketing. That's all it is, right? But normal people, how many people have you seen like they're at Walmart paying with food stamps, but they have a Gucci bag, you know? And I'm not begrudging anyone having food stamps. I think it's an important program, but like if you don't have money for the essentials, you don't spend on bullshit. Sorry.
No, it's justifiable in this instance.
Say again.
It's justifiable in this instance.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
They said it's justifiable in this instance.
Oh, it's justifiable. Yeah. You don't spend your money on nonsense. You know, once you realize that money would be much better spent on an investment, on making you more money than on looking shiny on your wrist. I don't wear a watch. You see that? I can afford some expensive watches, but I don't need it, you know. And much like my car, like I can afford a Ferrari, I can afford a Lamborghini, I can afford all this fancy stuff. And when I was younger, when I was your age, man, I wanted it. But now that I have the money, now that I can actually afford it, it's like it's a depreciable asset, a depreciating asset. Like it loses value. Cars lose value. So and many rich people understand that concept, so they don't buy that stuff. Like do you know what the most common car among millionaires is? It's a Toyota. It's reliable. You know, mine is 17 years old, 240,000 miles. It's still going strong. You know, there's a couple pieces missing, but it still rolls. It still gets me from A to B, and it's reliable. It's cheap. You know, I spend maybe $500 a year fixing it. I paid it off in less than 3 years. You know how I was saying I paid off that $25,000 debt? That was that car. $20,000 with that car. I paid it off in less than I think 3 years. It took me to pay that off. Because that was important to me, you know. Oh my God, I'm sorry, guys. I've been rambling a little bit. I haven't answered your questions. Emergency fund, yeah. So emergency fund, definitely have an emergency fund. You want to avoid debt as much as possible. It's so crazy how debt can derail your financial plans. Avoid it, you know. And there are some things I would permit you to use debt for. You know, a car, you know, is fine to have debt, but you know, not a new car. You're getting a $5,000 or a $10,000 used car as your first car. You know, you don't need a fancy car. Same like you don't need like a mansion. You know, all you need for your own personal use is a room, is a bed. As long as there's electricity, running water, rent a room. Right? Live with family for longer than is socially acceptable. Save your money. Okay?
I promise you.
That's what I do. I was 30 till I was like 33. I got out of the military at 30, and then I lived with my sister till I was like 33. You know, I was renting a room from her because it was cheap. You know, I had everything I needed. Work was close, school was close. That's all I needed, right? Emergency fund, very important. So the first thing you want to do is save up an emergency fund before you pay off your debt. Before you start investing, have an emergency fund, even if it's only like $1,000. But At some point, you want to save up about 3 to 6 months of your expenses as an emergency fund. That money will just be sitting in cash. That money will not be invested. Okay, that is cash, liquid, accessible. You know, and it doesn't make much sense to you right now because you're not working or anything like that. But just keep that in mind. Let's see. Oh, the question 6, what strategies do you use to manage unexpected expenses in your budget? I think I've explained, I've answered that, right?
Yeah.
I just prioritize saving, right? The first thing that comes off the top is investments. So the rest of the money I can spend how I see fit. So if anything comes up, I just draw from my savings, or I just, yeah. Okay, so 12, how do you decide the amount to save for retirement each month, and what accounts do you use? So the accounts, you know, it's my 401k, it's my Roth IRA. That's what I invest through, right? 401k allows me to put $23,000. The Roth IRA allows me to put $7,000, so a total of $30,000. If that's $2,500 a month. I'm not saving that much right now because my wife is going to school, so we only have one income. You know, my average Southern California income, which is, you know, we make do, but it's not like a super luxury lifestyle, even though we can go on four international trips a year if we want to, because we have the flexibility. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
What'd you say that you spend on your Roth IRA, whatever?
The Roth IRA account.
It's $7,000 a year, and that amount goes up every year, almost every year. So when you guys are getting started, I would highly encourage you to open up a Roth IRA, and you guys can contact me if you want. I can walk you through it. And in the future, if you, I'm also a money coach, so if anyone's interested in getting personalized advice, I do that for a fee too. But not now. Just, you know, I'll walk you guys through setting up the Roth IRA for free and all that stuff. But if you're ever like, when you start working, when you want somebody to hold your hand through all this stuff, I can do that. How do I decide the amount to save for retirement? So, you know how I said I track my spending? That's how I know how much money I have left over after the expenses, and that's the amount of money I put towards my investments. Does that answer the question? All right, cool. The concept of credit scores. Okay, credit, too much has been made. Too much has been made of credit. Credit it's important, but it's not that important. It's just pay your debts off. That's all it is. Don't borrow money. You know, don't put money on a credit card without paying it off every month. If you cannot pay for it in full in cash, you do not need to be buying it. The one exception is a mortgage, which most people can't afford to pay for a house in cash, so that's okay. I am okay with that. And another exception is potentially a car loan, but if you're borrowing money, it is for a need. You are not borrowing money for a want. No Gucci handbag on a credit card. You feel me? Okay. And so that's why you want to keep, if you're borrowing money, that you keep the expense as low as possible. You get the cheapest house you can find. You get the cheapest car that's reliable. Okay. Get a used car. Toyotas at $100,000 or 100,000 miles are basically brand new. So that's where I would do. Okay. If I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't have bought my car new. It would be used. And notice how all those rich people too that we were talking about, Musk, Gates, Zuckerberg, you ever notice how they dress?
Yeah.
They look like they shop at Goodwill, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a reason for that. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about your luxury stuff more than you. You notice when you see a Lamborghini passing on the street, do you look at the person driving or do you look at the car?
The car.
The car. No one cares about the person driving. They're like, I want to be that person driving. So you care more about your luxury stuff or your fancy stuff than other people, right? Keep that in mind. Yeah. Yeah, so that's called keeping up with the Joneses. When you try to maintain a flashy lifestyle because your neighbors, the Joneses, are doing that, that's called keeping up with the Joneses. That's where keeping up with the Kardashians comes from. It's just a race to the bottom. It's just they show you that because they make you think that, oh, if I could have that lifestyle, I'd be happy. But people with money will tell you that, you know, that it won't make you happy. When you finally have money, you realize the thing that really makes you happy is being able to spend your time how you see fit, right? How you can, so you have the freedom to do what you want. That is what really makes you happy. And so that is why I would encourage you all to spend your money on that. So how do you get that? You get that by investing. You buy index funds, you buy, not single stocks. Although it is okay to take a little bit of risk. Like I invested in crypto, like in Bitcoin. I invested in Tesla, and those things both blew up huge. Like it was less than 10% of my investment, but it grew to like 40 or 50%, and then went back down. So crypto, I spent $1,000 back in 2016 on 2.2 Bitcoin, which now is worth a lot more. Along the way, some of it got stolen, so I still have a whole Bitcoin left. But I spent $1,000, and it's now worth 70. So it's worth spending a little bit of money on a lottery ticket type stuff. But the majority, 90%, do not ever let me see you spend more than 10% of your investment on something risky. You should stay in index funds. 10%, feel free to gamble with that. Do whatever you want, but it's 90%, right? What age range in your life have you felt the most financially secure following a period of financial instability? Oh boy, I've had quite a bit of financial instability in my life, and that's what caused me to pursue this path. I think now, like maybe 2 years ago, is where I started feeling comfortable, because I had money. I had $1 million, but I didn't feel comfortable because my job was I didn't like my job, and I felt like I could lose it at any time. So I didn't feel comfortable. But now in my current job, I feel more comfortable.
I didn't want to cut you off too much. We have about 2 minutes left. So a
Does your
little.
class really need class time?
They're just prepping for a test, but
They don't prep
yeah,
independently.
All right, let's give me final
any
questions.
last thoughts? And
There was so much I wanted to cover, but
well, I mean, again, if you're willing to wake up early, we'd be more than happy to have you again. I'm so sorry.
oh, okay.
I'm looking at the
Yeah,
clock
we
in the
could do
background.
it again, sure. Yeah. But any final questions before we go? I hope I was able to answer some of them.
Zoe said number 15.
Yeah, number 15 as well.
Zoe was asking about filing taxes.
Great question.
15, yeah. Best way to learn to file taxes yourself. Okay, so for the just do TurboTax or Free Tax USA. They walk you right through it. I mean, if you want, H&R Blocks does a tax course, and I took that tax course 10 years ago. But you for most things in life, if you have like interest or dividends or something or income, the company will send you a W-2. They'll send you a 1099. They'll send you all the paperwork you need. All you got to do is follow the instructions on freetaxusa.com, and it'll tell you what you need to do. Just have all the tax documents and upload it. So it's really doing your own taxes. I've done that for years, and some of my tax situations have been fairly complicated, but TurboTax handles it for the most part. And if you're not sure, just hire a CPA. They charge you a lot of money.
All right, say thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's incredibly helpful.
Check out my website is dollarbills.com. Bills is spelled B-I-L-Z. So dollar is spelled normal and then B-I-L-Z. And so you can reach me there. You can read my blog posts, and on the resources tab, there's a link to my YouTube, link to my Facebook group. If anyone wants to join, I know most of your age is not on Facebook, but yeah, just reach out to me if you guys have any questions.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you so much.
much.
All right. And I'm going to post it all on the Google Classroom for them too, so they can access that.
Yeah.